Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode. I know many of you use these videos to help you sleep, so before we begin, I thought it would be fun for everyone to say hello and leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your engagement really makes this channel special. And hey, if you enjoy getting your nightly dose of thrills and chills with us, why not hit that subscribe button below? It's the best way to never miss out on the latest terrifying tales. So kick back, relax, and let's get started. Rain lashed against the theater windows, a relentless drumming that seemed to mock the manufactured drama of the horror flick flickering on screen. The Regal was a dying breed, a relic of a bygone era where popcorn reigned supreme and sticky floors were a badge of honor. Now, it was a cavernous echo chamber, barely kept afloat by the flickering lights of discount Tuesday night. I was there for the atmosphere, the thrill of a horror movie in a near-empty theater. My usual movie buddy, Sarah, had bailed for a date, leaving me with an extra ticket and a craving for cheap thrills. A lone figure, shrouded in a tattered trench coat, sat 3 rows ahead, their silhouette an unsettling question mark against the pale glow of the screen. The previews were punctuated by the rhythmic hiss of leaking pipes and the groans of the ancient ventilation system. With each creak and gurgle, the boundary between reality and the on-screen terror blurred. Then, the movie started. A psychological thriller about a family haunted by a malevolent entity. The acting was cheesy, the dialogue predictable, yet in this desolate setting, it took on an unsettling edge. Halfway through the first act, a loud thump jolted me from my seat. A popcorn box lay overturned in the aisle, spilling its buttery bounty across the sticky floor. I glanced towards the figure ahead. He was gone. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. A minute later, a chilling giggle echoed from the back of the theater, a sound both childish and utterly inhuman. My skin prickled, and a wave of nausea washed over me. The silence that followed was worse. The movie's soundtrack, once a comforting backdrop, now felt like a mocking melody playing on a broken record. I reached for my phone, the screen's faint glow a fragile shield against the encroaching darkness. No signal. A cough, dry and hacking, sent another shiver down my spine. The figure had returned, now closer. He shuffled down the aisle, his back hunched, his head obscured by the brim of his hat. The closer he got, the more the stench of mildew and decay assaulted my senses. He stopped 2 rows back, right behind me. The movie continued, a cruel joke as I sat frozen, fear a constricting band around my chest. His presence was suffocating. Every instinct screamed at me to bolt, but my legs were leaden weights. Then, a whisper, hot and fetid, tickled my ear. "You shouldn't be here." My scream died in my throat, a strangled gasp. With a desperate heave, I scrambled out of my seat, tripping over the discarded popcorn. A bony hand clamped onto my shoulder, its grip strong enough to bruise. "Don't leave," the whisper rasped, this time right beside me. "The movie isn't over yet." Panic propelled me forward. I blindly shoved through the exit door, the cold night air a welcome shock. He didn't follow. I didn't dare look back, just ran, lungs burning, until I reached the deserted streetlight at the corner. Catching my breath, I fumbled for my phone again, this time with success. The police arrived quickly, but the theater was empty. No sign of the figure, no trace of the popcorn, not even a damp spot on the floor. The manager, a weary man with haunted eyes, insisted the theater had been closed since the afternoon cleaning crew left. The Regal shut down shortly after. They said it was a mold problem, a health hazard. But I know better. The horror wasn't in the movie, it was in the shadows, lurking in the decaying heart of a forgotten theater. And sometimes, the truest terror hides in plain sight, disguised as the familiar chill of a rainy Tuesday night. The flickering neon sign outside the Sunset Drive-In cast an eerie glow on the cracked asphalt. It was a relic of a bygone era, a haven for teenagers making out under the stars and families seeking a dose of cinematic nostalgia. Tonight, it was just me and the ghosts in the machine. A storm was brewing on the horizon, the low rumble of thunder an unwelcome soundtrack to the double feature playing. I'd opted for the cult classic Carnival of Souls, a decision I was starting to regret as the pre-show static bled into the film's opening scene. The scratchy audio and flickering image only amplified the unsettling atmosphere of the movie, a feeling that seeped from the screen and into the car. My usual movie partner, Ben, had chickened out, citing a sudden case of existential dread. Left alone, I cranked up the volume, hoping to drown out the gnawing sense of unease. The only other car in the lot was parked several rows back, shrouded in darkness. Its windows were rolled up, offering no glimpse of its occupants. As the movie progressed, so did the storm. Rain lashed against the windshield, the wind whipping the lone concession stand sign back and forth with a mournful creak. Each flash of lightning illuminated the desolate landscape, the skeletal remains of a long-abandoned Ferris wheel, its rusted spokes reaching towards the angry sky like skeletal fingers. Then, it happened. A figure emerged from behind the shadows cast by the concession stand, tall and lanky. It moved with an unnatural gait, almost gliding across the slick pavement. Panic tightened its grip around my throat as the figure approached my car. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I could see the outline of a clown mask, its painted smile grotesque under the flashes of lightning. A wave of nausea washed over me. It couldn't be real, could it? This was just some twisted prank, a throwback to the movie I was watching. But the figure stopped beside my car, its presence a physical manifestation of the dread that had been steadily building inside me. In the flickering light, I could see a single, grubby fingernail tapping impatiently against the driver's side window. My breath hitched. This wasn't a prank. My heart hammered against my ribs as I fumbled with the door locks, desperately wishing I hadn't been so cheap as to skip the security of the multiplex. The tapping intensified, a relentless rhythm that seemed to pulse with the storm. Just as I was about to call the police, a distorted voice, raspy and inhuman, echoed through the car's speakers, "Let me in." A primal scream ripped from my throat. Adrenaline surged through me, overriding the terror that had held me frozen. I threw the car into reverse, tires spinning in protest as I peeled away from the masked figure. The rain blurred my vision as I tore out of the drive-in, the clown figure a dark silhouette in my rearview mirror until it vanished into the storm-ravaged landscape behind me. I didn't stop driving until I reached the brightly lit parking lot of an all-night diner, the normalcy of flashing neon signs a welcome sight. Shaking, I dialed Ben's number. His voice, when he finally answered, was tinged with concern. "You all right?" he asked. I could only manage a breathless gasp before stammering out a confused and terrified description of the night's events. "There hasn't been a clown at the drive-in in years," Ben said, his voice laced with a chilling certainty. "They shut it down after." He hesitated, then continued, "Let's just say there was an accident. No clowns." The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering to the floor of the car. Maybe it was the terror, maybe the exhaustion, but a creeping suspicion began to bloom in my mind. There hadn't been another car at the drive-in. The concession stand was abandoned. And the voice that spoke to me, it wasn't coming from the car's speakers. The flickering fluorescent lights of the dollar discount theater cast an unsettling glow on the peeling red paint. It was the kind of place that smelled faintly of mystery and regret, a haven for bargain hunters and those seeking refuge from the harsh realities of a Tuesday afternoon. Today, it was just me and the whispers in the worn-out seats. I wasn't there for the movie, a low-budget horror flick with a title so generic it could have been generated by a random word scramble. No, I was there for the rumors. Whispers about the theater, about a projection booth long sealed shut, about a single, scratched film reel that held something unsettling. The manager, a man whose weary eyes seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 bad decisions, eyed me suspiciously as I handed him a crumpled $5 bill. Basement, he rasped, his voice sandpaper against gravel. Don't touch anything. The descent into the basement was a journey into a forgotten world. Cobwebs draped dusty projector bulbs like ghostly curtains. The air hung heavy with the smell of mildew and something else, a metallic tang that sent shivers down my spine. Pushing through a rusted metal door, I stumbled into a small, cramped room dominated by a hulking antique projector. A single film reel, its celluloid cracked and warped, lay nestled in its cradle. Ignoring the manager's warning, I threaded the film, a cold sweat prickling my skin. The projector whirred to life, bathing the room in a flickering, sepia-toned light. The grainy images on the screen depicted a carnival, a kaleidoscope of faded colors and grotesque smiles. But something was wrong. The faces of the carnival goers were blank, their eyes empty voids. A wave of nausea washed over me. Then, a face materialized on the screen, filling the entire frame. It was a woman, her expression a mask of pure terror, her eyes pleading for help. A single word, scrawled across the bottom of the screen in a frantic hand, burned into my retinas: don't. A cold wind howled through the room, extinguishing the projector lamp and plunging me into darkness. Panic clawed at my throat as I fumbled for the exit. A wet, decaying hand clamped over my mouth, stifling my scream. A rasping whisper filled my ears, emanating from somewhere behind me. I told you not to touch. In the darkness, I could feel the press of a body against mine, something cold and inhuman. I lunged forward, adrenaline fueling my desperation. My hand connected with a solid object, a metal lever. With a desperate heave, I threw it down. The room pulsed with a blinding white light, the forgotten film igniting in a fireball. The scream that tore from my throat was a mix of terror and relief. When the flames died down, the room was empty. The projection booth was a wreck of charred metal and melted film. The woman on the screen was gone, replaced by static. As I stumbled out of the basement, blinking against the harsh fluorescent lights of the lobby, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Maybe it was just the lingering effects of the terror, or maybe it was the faint outline of a face imprinted on the projector lens, a face with blank eyes and a terrifying smile. One thing was certain, the whispers in the dollar discount theater weren't just rumors. They were a chilling reminder that some stories are best left untold, and some doors are best left unopened. The Civic Center Auditorium. A once grand Art Deco masterpiece, now a decaying relic relegated to hosting discount matinees and forgotten B-movie festivals. The peeling paint on the vaulted ceiling mirrored the flakes of anxiety chipping away at my resolve. I wasn't here for the movie, a low-budget sci-fi flick promising alien encounters of the worst kind. I was here for the ghost. The legend whispered through the dusty halls, the projectionist. A spectral figure said to haunt the projection booth, forever tethered to a single, unfinished film. A film so disturbing, so realistic, that it drove the original director to madness. Intrigued, fueled by a morbid curiosity and a hefty dose of foolishness, I convinced the jaded custodian to unlock the forbidden booth. The metal creaked like a tortured soul as the door swung open. Inside, shrouded in dust sheets, sat a colossal antique projector, its lens a dark, malevolent eye staring back at me. Ignoring the prickling unease on my skin, I uncovered the projector. Nestled in its cradle lay a rusted film canister, its label faded but still bearing the chilling inscription, Project X, do not play. My fingers trembled as I threaded the film. The silence in the booth was broken only by the whirring of the projector as it sputtered to life. The screen flickered, then came alive with grainy black and white images. A desolate cityscape, devoid of life, shrouded in an unnatural fog. The camera panned across deserted streets littered with discarded belongings, a chilling testament to a mass exodus. Then, it appeared. A figure in a hooded robe, its face obscured by shadow, emerging from the swirling mist. It moved with a jerky, unnatural gait, its movements echoing the mechanical whirring of the projector. As the figure drew closer, its form began to distort, morphing and twisting into something inhuman, its silhouette a grotesque parody of a human body. An icy grip clamped onto my heart. The scene on the screen was too real, too visceral. It felt less like a movie and more like a glimpse into a nightmarish reality. A strangled cry escaped my lips as the hooded figure reached the camera, its distorted face filling the screen. A blood-curdling shriek tore through the auditorium, shattering the silence. The projector sputtered and died, plunging me back into darkness. My heart pounded like a trapped bird in my chest as I fumbled for the exit door, my breath ragged in the suffocating darkness. When I stumbled out of the booth, blinking in the dim light, the auditorium was empty. The movie screen was blank, dark, the chilling image of the hooded figure replaced by an advertisement for popcorn. Relief washed over me, momentarily. Then, on the back of my neck, a prickling sensation. A whisper, cold and brittle, tickled my ear. The film isn't finished yet. Terror turned my legs to lead. A glimpse at the projection booth sent a fresh wave of panic crashing over me. The door, moments ago creaking open with agonizing slowness, now stood ajar, a sliver of darkness inviting me back into its chilling embrace. I fled, the echoing whispers chasing me into the night, a chilling reminder that some stories are better left untold, some films better unplayed, and some doors better left unopened. The Civic Center auditorium may have fallen silent, but the chilling image of the hooded figure remained etched in my memory, a constant reminder of the night I played Project X. The flickering neon sign above the last reel video buzzed with a dying fly's desperation. Rain lashed against the grimy storefront window, blurring the rows upon rows of dusty VHS tapes stacked precariously inside. It was a graveyard of forgotten films, a place where memories went to rot. Tonight, I was there for a resurrection. The air hung heavy with the scent of decaying plastic and forgotten dreams. Behind the counter, a man with eyes like faded VHS static eyed me suspiciously. "You here for the redacted tapes?" he rasped, his voice worn thin by too many nights spent surrounded by ghosts of entertainment. I swallowed, the name sending a shiver down my spine. Redacted was a local urban legend, a series of blank VHS tapes rumored to capture something unspeakable. Something that drove those who watched them to madness. A morbid curiosity gnawed at me, a hunger for the forbidden. He grunted, disappearing into the labyrinthine stacks of tapes. The silence pressed in, broken only by the relentless drumming of rain on the roof. Minutes ticked by, each one a slow beat of escalating dread. Finally, he emerged, a single worn-out tape clutched in his hand. "Last one," he mumbled, his voice devoid of life. "And last warning. Don't watch it alone." A surge of defiance warred with the cold knot of fear in my stomach. "I won't," I lied, shoving a crumpled $10 bill into his hand. He didn't look at it, his gaze fixed on something beyond me. Back in my apartment, a sterile cube devoid of personality, I shoved the tape into the dusty VCR. A jolt of static surged through the screen before giving way to nothing. Just black. Disappointment clawed at me. Maybe it was all a hoax. Then, a flicker. A single frame, a distorted image of a playground shrouded in an unnatural twilight. Before I could register what I saw, another image materialized. This time, a news report. The anchor's face a mask of terror as he spoke of a series of disappearances, children vanishing into thin air. Then, the real horror began. The image flickered, twisting and warping as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. Grotesque figures materialized, their forms shifting, impossible to define. A high-pitched whine pierced my ears, a sound that gnawed at the sanity, burrowing into my skull. Panic seized me. The figures on the screen seemed to reach out, their warped forms blurring the line between reality and the nightmare unfolding before my eyes. A primal scream ripped from my throat. My hand slammed down on the eject button, but the tape kept playing. A voice, a cacophony of whispers and screams, filled the room. It spoke in a language that defied comprehension, yet somehow, I understood. It spoke of hunger, of a world beyond our own, a place where the lines between fiction and reality blurred. The final image was a single, wide-eyed stare, a face frozen in a mask of pure terror. Then, silence. The tape had stopped. The air crackled with a sense of wrongness, a feeling like a hungry predator lurked just beyond the veil of my vision. I stumbled back from the VCR, heart pounding a frantic tattoo against my ribs. The lights in the apartment seemed to flicker with a new intensity. The room, once devoid of personality, now felt alien, a stage set for a horror show waiting to unfold. A low chuckle echoed in the dead silence, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I was alone, but not truly alone. Something had crossed over, a sliver of the horror captured on the tape clinging to my world. The redacted tapes weren't blank. They were a gateway, and I had foolishly opened the door. And in the flickering darkness of my apartment, I knew one thing for sure: the last reel was far from over.